Dear viewers, this time Charlie calls Ruoli into the room. Zinn, Zhiyu, and Liona are shocked that Ruoli is still alive. Zinn cries, regretting not looking for Ruoli. Charlie reveals that he saved the Su family 4 times, but demands that Zinn pay with his life because of the anti-Wade alliance. Zhiyu and Ruoli plead. Charlie sets a condition. Zhiyu must seize Su within 3 years and hand over Changfeng. Zinn is detained, sent to Syria to join Hamid's opposition forces, and must transfer funds to support the revolution. Enjoy the story. Thank you.
Chapter 2701. Ruoli's room was not far from the rooms of Liona and Zhiyu. They were all in the same area of the executive floor, but there were a dozen rooms in between. At this time, she naturally didn't know anything about what happened in Zhiyu's room. Recently, she has been seizing the time to practice martial arts. Charlie had directly increased her Ren vessel patency, which made her whole person's strength and foundation go through earth-shaking changes, so she couldn't wait to take advantage of the good foundation Charlie laid for herself and improve her strength quickly. At this time, Ruoli was wearing sports Un 3R wear in the room for morning exercises, and suddenly heard the doorbell. Subconsciously it must be Charlie, and ran to the door with excitement. When she was about to open the door, she heard Issac's voice outside the door, "Ms. Su is awake." Ruoli's hand that was about to touch the doorknob suddenly stopped, and asked a little disappointedly, "Is there anything wrong with Mr. Issac?" Issac said politely, "That's right, our young master is here, and has a few acquaintances in another room. He would like to invite you to come there too. I don't know if it is convenient for you." Ruoli heard that Charlie was looking for her, and she was a little disappointed just now. She is now excited to the extreme, like a little girl who just fell in love, so she hurriedly said, "Mr. Issac, wait a minute, I will change my clothes. Come out right away." After speaking, she hurried back to the bedroom. Although she was covered with fragrant sweat, she didn't care about taking a shower. She wiped it quickly and changed her clothes. Before she went out, she went to the mirror and looked at the mirror carefully. After looking at it for a moment, she saw that although her face in the mirror was radiant, her lips were red and her teeth were white, but she still lacked the sense of sophistication after applying pink and white. She couldn't help but felt a little lost, and said to herself, "Hey, I didn't learn to apply makeup before, and there was never even a lipstick around me. There are no eyebrow pencils, or else I could dress up a little." In desperation, she could only dispel this idea and hurried out. When she arrived at the door, Issac was waiting for her. Seeing Ruoli coming out, he made a gesture of inviting and said, "Miss Su, please come with me." Ruoli nodded and followed Issac to the room where Charlie was. At this time, except for Charlie. Besides Issac, Zinn, Zhiyu, and Liona didn't know who Charlie was talking about as the other guest. Therefore, the 3 of them were very curious. Soon, the doorbell rang outside, and Issac was outside with someone. He opened his mouth and said, "Master, please come here." Charlie gave a hum, and said, "Let her come in." Issac immediately opened the door and said to Ruoli beside him, "Miss Su, please." Ruoli stepped forward and saw Charlie standing inside the door. She felt extremely happy in her heart, but after she saw the other people around Charlie clearly, her whole body was dumbfounded. She never dreamed that her father Zinn, half-sister Zhiyu, and Zhiyu's biological mother Liona were all here. Zinn, Zhiyu, and Liona saw Ruoli enter. When she entered, she was shocked to add. No one thought that Ruoli, who disappeared in Japan, was still alive. The whole of Japan was struggling to find her, and the Metropolitan Police Department carried out a carpet search across the country. The soldiers of the Self-Defense Force also searched every city in the mainland, and conspired with Changfeng to do meritorious service, but accidentally played with the Maritime Self-Defense Force, but no one found Ruoli's whereabouts. They once believed that Ruoli should have been killed at sea. After all, it was really difficult to find someone in the sea. The Su family also felt that Ruoli 90% was dead, and there was a high probability that she would be buried on the bottom of the sea. Otherwise, how could she escape from the net of security forces which encompassed heaven and earth? But now, she appeared to them alive. Before. Moreover, this is not Japan. This is Aurous Hill. Moreover, since she is Charlie's guest, it must be Charlie who rescued her. From this point of view, this man simply has the ability to reach the sky. If he does not have the ability to reach the sky, how could he bring Ruoli back quietly from the tiger and wolf's mouth? This is simply incredible. The one who is most excited is naturally Zinn. Seeing that Ruoli was still alive, he was even more emotional, and cried and said, "Ruoli. Ruoli, is that really you? It's so hard for Dad to find you." Charlie rolled his eyes and looked at him, raising his hand just to slap him. Pop! This slap made Zhiyu and Ruoli both surprised. Zinn was also completely stunned, and asked with anger in his heart, "What's the matter with you? What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you hitting me again? Me? And hit me in front of my wife and daughters?" Charlie asked coldly at this time. "Zinn, you are so shameless. After Ruoli disappeared, did you really look for her?" Zinn said, startled. "Yes, did you look for her?" "Of course not. That's because you really couldn't find her. She disappeared in the vast ocean, and the power of the whole country could not find her. How can I, Zinn, have this ability? Because I knew that the chance was slim. It was negligible, so I didn't really think of looking for her at all. Besides, I've been pressed by the old man all the time, and I couldn't mobilize any resources. The old man just sold Ruoli on the front foot. If I went to find her on the back foot, why don't I confront the old man? So, I really haven't looked for her. In other words, this leaves the slap in the face, in the right place." Thinking of this, he hung his head in shame, mouth choking. "If away, you get caught in Japan, I really want to save you. Your grandfather kept saying that he would help me save you, but I didn't expect that he would talk to the self-defense force about those nasty conditions on my back." Ruoli's eyes burst into tears. She also guessed that she really wanted to. Grandpa Chungfeng must be the one who betrayed her. However, her heart felt a little cold when she thought that her father had not made any substantial efforts to save her. She felt that even if she was an illegitimate daughter, she was always the flesh and blood of Zinn. His own flesh and blood were betrayed in this way, and even her life and death were unknown. He did nothing, and it was indeed too impersonal. Seeing her crying, Charlie smiled slightly, and comforted, "If you are away, don't be sad, don't say you are an illegitimate daughter. Even the eldest daughter Zhiyu, she is still helpless and has never done anything. This person has no humanity at all. All he wants is the position of Su family patriarch. No matter whose head is used to change it, he will not hesitate." Ruoli heard Charlie's words, lightheartedly. She nodded lightly. The last time she followed Charlie to catch Shout, the second child of the Su family, so after that time, she knew what happened to Liona and Zhiyu. When she thought of this and then of herself, her expression suddenly changed. She was even more disappointed. In her opinion, the Su family is indeed the tomb of family love and humanity. For the family, there is nothing in this world that cannot be sacrificed or given up. Zinn saw the eyes of his two daughters looking at him, which are full of deep disappointment and indifference, and then his heart collapsed. He knelt on the ground, crying and wailing, "Zhiyu, Ruoli, it is me who has not fulfilled his obligations as a father. It is me without protecting you properly. I was wrong, I was guilty. I am guilty." Ruoli turned her face directly and turned her back to Zinn to wipe the tears, while Zhiyu, the tears have long been flowing like a spring. At this time, Charlie looked at Zinn and yelled coldly, "Zinn! You antagonized my parents and established the anti-Wade alliance, and there is a high probability that you will be responsible for the death of my parents, but I have repeatedly saved your family bloodline 4 times. In Kyoto, I saved your son Jufei and daughter Zhiyu. Quote, in Tokyo, I saved your illegitimate daughter Ruoli. In Aurous Hill, I saved your wife Liona, and saved your daughter Zhiyu one again. Leave Aunt Liona aside, I have saved 3 of you from the Su family and 4 lives. Zinn, you just said that you are willing to use your life for the lives of your 2 daughters. Now both of your daughters are intact. Standing here without loss, it's time for you to fulfill your promise." When Zinn heard this, the whole person shuddered. He really did not expect that his 2 daughters were actually still alive. Moreover, they were both saved by Charlie. In this way, if Charlie letting his life be exchanged, what should he do? He really feels guilty for his 2 daughters, and he really hopes that the 2 daughters will be safe, but he is also a human. He didn't live enough. He didn't want to die either. The thought of this, he was suddenly having a shiver, choking. Yep, I swear to God, I did not kill your parents, it really has nothing to do with me ah. Then he quickly added, I say something to from heart. In the first half of my life, no matter what I did, I was crushed by your father. His unworldly talent was recognized and admired by the entire city and even the entire China. Speaking of this, he darkened, and sighed, what about me? What am I? I am just the eldest son of the Su family. Not only I was just inferior to him in every aspect, but even the beloved woman has also always loved him deeply, even if he died. I also live in his shadow all the time, this shadow has enveloped me until now. Until now. Liona on the side heard this, her expression suddenly felt a little guilty. Zinn continued crying bitterly and continued, although I never admit that Changying is better than me for so many years, I know very well in my heart that I know that Zinn is not better than Changying. That is 100,000 worse than Changying. 8,000 miles. With my ability, how could I kill him? When he was alive, I really hated him to the bone, but think about it, if I could kill him, why didn't I kill him when he was radiant? Why didn't I kill him when he was standing on top? Why should I wait for him to retreat before doing anything to him? Charlie saw that he was emotional, and said these words almost like confession and venting, and it was also from his heart. Realizing that, looking at it this way, Zinn should really not be the murderer of his parents. It's not just Zinn's performance that doesn't show any clues. Even more, because his words do have some truth. Charlie thought, he must hate my father. So, if he had that ability, he must have done it as early as when his father was so radiant and completely covered up. He won't wait until my father retires before doing it. This is not illogical. Moreover, people say that father was a talented person, but Zinn couldn't even touch the side of a talented person, if the father really died at the hands of such a villain, and that would be a great insult to his father. However, even if Charlie determined that Zinn was not the murderer of his parents, he still did not intend to let him go. Nothing else, only for the 3 words anti-weight alliance. Even if these 3 words did not ultimately cause the death of their parents, but Zinn has been against his father all year round, this is also an indefensible offense and sin. So, just for these 3 words he must also make Zinn pay for it. So Charlie said coldly, whether my parents' death has nothing to do with you. It doesn't matter anymore, because as you said, your life is not about to come to pay tribute to my parents, but to exchange for your 2 daughters. Even if the death of my parents really has nothing to do with you, since Zhiyu and Ruoli have stood here intact today, you must also. Damn it. Zinn's face turned ashes when he heard this. Yes. Quote. Charlie was right. Quote. Leave aside his parents. He said it himself. I am willing to use my own life for the lives of my 2 daughters. I have already disappointed my 2 daughters. I can't let them down anymore. But, thinking of this, Zinn felt even more pain in his heart. He didn't want to die. 10,000 times he doesn't want to die. On the one hand, he didn't want to let the 2 daughters continue to be disappointed, and on the other hand, he didn't want to die like this. He suddenly didn't know what to do. Seeing him lower his head without saying a word, Charlie immediately asked with a sarcasm, why, you want to regret it now? I don't. Zinn blurted out. Charlie asked, then how do you want to die? Are you going to die yourself or do you want my help? Zinn was speechless, and his whole body twitched and trembled violently. At this time, he didn't know what to say. Saying that he is dead. Charlie is likely to force him to commit suicide. Say let him help. Then maybe he just shot himself down. But, both daughters are here, should he go to Charlie to beg for mercy? Doesn't it mean that he broke his word again and threw the 2 daughters again? Behind his head, extremely entangled and afraid of death, Zinn collapsed to the ground as if he was paralyzed. He only knew how to cry, but couldn't say a word at all. Zhiyu looked at him and looked down upon him, but she also couldn't bear it. She is actually not afraid of her father going back. Anyway, she was already very disappointed with her father, and there was no need to let him die at this time. So, she hesitated for a moment, knelt in front of Charlie with a puff, and choked up, Master Zhiyu begs you to forgive my father. Ruoli is actually the same as Zhiyu. Disappointment is really a disappointment. But the blood is still there. This man who is limp on the ground is still her father. Even if he is as timid as a mouse, even if he is addicted to money, he is still her father. He has never harmed her himself, so how can she expect him to die? Think of it, she immediately knelt down and pleaded, "Master, beg you to spare." Liona had a complicated expression and knelt on one knee. She said piously, "Young Master Wade, as Zinn's wife, I have been thinking of others in my heart all these years. I really owe it to him. Although he has sinned in all sorts of ways, he is sinful, I know. Please let him go." Zinn really didn't expect it to be like this. He didn't expect that his 2 daughters and the wife who was determined to divorce him would kneel on the ground and beg Charlie to go around him. At this moment, his heart was truly guilty. He covered his face and lay on the ground and wept bitterly, because he really wanted to survive, so he had no face to see his daughter and wife, and could only wait for Charlie's sentence. Charlie also hesitated at this time. Hesitate whether to kill Zinn or not. If you kill him, there are other sons in the Su family. It is said that the 5 sons, eldest and second child of the Su family are gone, and there are also the 3rd, 4th, and 5th sons. If he doesn't kill him, he can't swallow the tone of the anti-Wade alliance alone. At this time, he glanced at Zhiyu and suddenly said, "Zhiyu, if you want me to spare him for not dying, you must promise me 2 conditions." Zhiyu said without hesitation, "Please, please. Say it, Master." Charlie sternly said, "The first condition, no matter what method you use, you must inherit the Su family within 3 years." After hearing this, Zhiyu was shocked and she never thought about inheriting the Su family. What's more, even if she thinks about it, she doesn't have a chance. Don't say she is a female, even if her father is the eldest son, he hasn't inherited the Su family for so many years. How can she achieve this goal in 3 years? But, one thinking about it, the father's life and death, she could only bite the bullet and promise first, at least to save her father's life, so she blurted out, "Okay, I promise the second condition." Charlie said coldly, "The second condition, on the day of inheriting the Su family, the old dog Chungfeng must be handed over to me. Before you hand that old dog to me, Zinn's life temporarily exists with me, waiting for you to hand over Chungfeng to me. I will return Zinn to you." When Zinn heard that Charlie would detain himself for 3 years, and he had to be exchanged with his father before he could get his freedom back, he suddenly panicked. Just as he was about to speak, Zhiyu on the side asked, "Benevolence, you targeted my father because of the anti-Wade alliance back then, but what did my grandfather do?" Charlie smiled slightly and said seriously, "I have 3 reasons for your grandfather. First, judging from your grandfather's absolute right to speak in the Su family, although your father was in charge of the anti-Wade alliance at the time, it must be your grandfather who was really behind it." Zinn, who heard this, nodded in tears. Charlie's words came to his heart. In the Su family, the prerequisite for anything to do must be the old man nodded in agreement, otherwise, who dare to make self-determination? Therefore, even though the anti-Wade alliance was on its own, but in essence, it was the old man behind. At this time, Charlie looked at Ruoli and continued, "Second, I don't like your grandpa's acting style. This old dog is too vicious. People say that tiger poison still doesn't eat children, but your grandfather, the old dog, doesn't care about it. Whether you are a granddaughter, a daughter-in-law, or even a son, he can take it out at any time. The sacrificed ghost, such a person, shouldn't leave him in charge of the Su family, otherwise I still don't know how many people will be entrapped by him." And then he looked and said further, "Of course, your father is not a good man. I heard several dozen Heaven Matsumoto beloved family were murdered under his command." Zinn didn't keep track and looked down and dared not to speak, but he was still trembling with nervousness. Zhiyu was also a little ashamed. Her father made this decision, and she was shocked for a long time. Although to a certain extent, she could understand her father's heart to avenge her and her brother, but she really did not expect that he would give Ruoli such a cruel order. Ruoli was even more ashamed. After all, she was the one who executed the order to destroy the Matsumoto family. Charlie continued at this time, "Third, if you don't hand over your grandfather to me, how can you sit down as the head of the patriarch? As long as he is still there, he will definitely not let you succeed. This person will never let others succeed before he dies. He won't put the right to others." Zhiyu was shocked when she heard this. She understood that Charlie wanted her grandfather for her own future and safety considerations. Thinking of this, she was silent for a moment. Lightly she nodded lightly and said, "My dear master, I promise you." Zinn heard this and hurriedly asked, Mr. Wade, before Zhiyu hands my father into your hands, how about me? Charlie said lightly, I have already thought about it. I just met a new friend yesterday. His conditions are pretty good and he can send you to experience life. Zinn quickly pleaded, Mr. Wade, please raise your hands high. Don't send me to a kennel, black coal kiln, or Changbai mountain. Charlie smiled and said, don't worry, I plan to send you abroad. Take a vacation and experience the exotic atmosphere. Zinn felt a little in his heart and blurted out, Mr. Wade, I don't know which country you want to send me to. Zhiyu, Ruoli, and Liona also looked at Charlie nervously. Everyone was afraid that Charlie would suddenly say something unpleasant. Speaking of a third world country in Africa, if he is sent to Congo, Zimbabwe, or Liberia, which are the world's poorest countries, he will really have inexhaustible suffering. Thinking of this, Zinn couldn't help but plead. Mr. Wade, please don't send me to Africa. I'm old and can't bear the kind of tossing. Charlie heard this and said with a smile, Mr. Su thinks too much. I don't have much to do in Africa, even if there is no suitable place to send you in the future. Zinn was finally relieved. In his opinion, as long as he doesn't go to Africa, he is basically justified. Even in Myanmar and Cambodia, all aspects of conditions and security are better than those in Africa. So, he hurriedly asked, Mr. Wade, where are you going to send me? Charlie smiled slightly and said one word faintly, Syria. Zinn felt a buzz in his mind when he heard these three words. A huge force hit his forehead. He panicked and murmured, Syria. Isn't that a war-torn country? Going to such a place at this time, can safety be guaranteed? Zhiyu blurted out nervously, Master, the situation in Syria is turbulent, not only in the country, the opposition and other armed forces, the United States also seems to have frequent military operations. It is too dangerous. Can you change the place? Charlie shook his head. I don't have to change, go to Syria. Seeing that Zinn was very nervous, Ruoli comforted, don't worry too much. Although the situation in Syria is relatively turbulent, the capital Damascus is still relatively safe, and the opposition and other armed forces have not attacked there. With that, he added another sentence, Damascus has a long history, and its modernization progress is pretty good. After all, Syria's per capita GDP is not low. Zinn heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. Although he had never been to Damascus, he felt pretty good when he heard that. As a result, he not only secretly thought, in his impression, although Syria is a country of war all year round, it is not very poor, after all, it is also a middle-income country. If I go to the capital Damascus, I can also experience the exotic customs. If Zhiyu can really become the patriarch of the Su family, then I will be the patriarch's father, and I will be able to continue living the life of the master when I come back. Thinking of this, he is very happy. He hurriedly said, Since Mr. Wade made such an arrangement, I will say nothing. Charlie looked at Zinn and said with interest, Oh yes Mr. Su, I forgot to tell you that my friend is an armed leader of the Syrian opposition. He just beat the government forces a few days ago. He won the battle, there is something indeed, and he is someone who has studied in China for many years, speaks Chinese very well. After you go, it will be more convenient to communicate with him. Charlie said again, but after you arrive in Syria, you must be careful. Once the war starts, you must protect yourself. The guns are eyeless, so don't be injured by mistake. Zinn immediately collapsed when he heard this. What? Opposition? Yep. You let me go to the armed opposition what to do ah. Charlie smiled and said, Do not say to send you experience life past experience, you have seen pampered living for so many years, may wish to change the living law. Zinn panicked and said, But if your friend loses, what should I do? Maybe I am going to die there. Charlie thoughtfully said, You really have some truth in what you said, right? Do you have any US dollar assets that you can call overseas? Zinn thought for a while, and said, Most of the assets of the Su family are under the hands of the old man, but I can also transfer tens of millions of dollars, the amount is not large, he can't find it. Charlie said immediately, Very good, then when you arrive in Syria, transfer the money to my friend by the way, as it is to support his revolutionary cause.